So welcome. For those of you who are keeping track, this is part two of phase two. Phase two being where we start to build the top of the pot. And now what you can see is I've taken a little bit of time and I've cleaned out the inside so it's a nice even surface. And I did that again by scraping it with this steel rib, by taking this and scraping it in. And now our next step is to join clay and start coil building up. Now, the interesting thing about that, or the important thing about that, is this clay has dried. It is in a leather hard state. We can still join to it, but we really want to make sure we get a secure join that will not crack. And in order to do that, we need to score very, very thoroughly. So the way that looks, I'm using a fork here. This is a fine scoring tool. And you want to just go around several times and get lots and lots of little grooves going here and crossing the first grooves that I set up to create even more scored area. And to start with, I'm doing the top of the pot, the top edge, and then I'll do the sides both inside and outside. So you'll see that in a moment. I'm going to shift scoring tools here to a little wooden Japanese tool that I have here. This works, it's got more prongs, so it works a little faster. So I'm going to just take that and scrape the clay, and you can see that showing up all the way around here. And you want to go down maybe an inch, even an inch and a half. You want to really work the clay in and soften this edge with slip so that you get a really good join. Because what happens when something like this is dried a little bit, and I'll do the outside too, which will look like this, but this is a little bit awkward for me to do it this way, so I'll do it over here where I can see what I'm doing. So when something like this dries a little bit to this leather hard state, it shrinks a little bit, which means that now I'm going to attach wet clay that hasn't shrunken onto this edge. So when I do that, everything is going to begin to shrink. The wet clay will shrink more than the bottom clay here. And so what that means is I really need to get a really good join here so it withstands the pressure without cracking. That's the whole thinking about this joining process. So I'm really working it a lot to get a nice scored surface here. And that's good all the way. I'll go once more on the top edge. And so now the whole piece is really well scored. And the next step is to apply slip. So that is the three parts of joining: is scoring, slipping, and then applying pressure, pressing clay together. And so it's a delicate balance. We need the clay stiff enough to hold up so it doesn't change shape when I'm doing all this to it. It doesn't ding or bend or warp. And so I need the stiffness, but at the same time, I have to be very cautious that it doesn't get so dry that this kind of joining is going to lead to cracking. So you can see I'm putting lots of slip here. And again, slip is just water in which I've dissolved some of the same clay that I'm using. That makes a nice joining slip. Some people put vinegar in it, which adds to the joining qualities, but I find it smells a lot like a good vinaigrette salad, and I always get hungry, so I don't want to use that. So you can also use a little sodium silicate, but this works fine for me. So now I've gone around the inside, and the top edge, I just have to go around the outside with some slip. Do that over here. And once we get the form of the piece made, once I finish the top, I can cover the whole thing with plastic, and that'll help even out the moisture from the top to the bottom a little bit and allow it to dry slowly. I want it to dry all of it to a kind of leather hard state, and then I'm going to think about what kind of applique to put on. I think this will be our example of the applique technique for surface decoration. And that would be my phone ringing, and I will just let that ring. So there we have the scoring and slipping. And now I'm going to do what we've already seen. I'm going to start the 3-step process of coil building. And so I'm wiping this coil, and I really want to take the time to wipe this really vigorously into not only the top edge, but the side where I've scored it. I'm really pressing it in, really working it. You can see it here, perhaps if I stand over here. You can see how I'm working that clay, really pushing it down into the piece here. Really working it, pressing it in, because that press is going to be really important. Remember, when we're adding coils, we never just start where we left off, but overlap just a little bit. So I'm overlapping this and pressing this down in. And what I want to do now is kind of demonstrate how we get this going, and I'll start the coil building and then take you through the 3 steps and start building. Maybe I'll put one more coil on so you can see how it progresses a little bit. And then I'll stop this part 2, and build up the rest of the cylinder, the rest of it, until you can see the whole piece forming. Okay, it looks like this is going to be 4 parts. So we'll stop this now, and then I will show you more on part 3 and part 4.